Good afternoon, and welcome to the Board of Health meeting of December 4th, 2023. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairperson. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until March 31st, 2025, this meeting of the Chatham Board of Health is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to the meeting will be, while in progress, may do so by calling the number 508-945-4410, and the conference ID is 224-730-854#, or you may join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Channel 8, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. And tonight's meeting is going to be chaired by Carol Boyce, our vice chairperson.
It shall be the policy of this board to conduct its meeting under the open meetings law so as to encourage public participation whenever time permits and as part of an agenda item discussion. I'll take attendance to see if we have a quorum. When I call your name, say here. John Beckley.
Here.
Ron Broman.
Here.
Carol Gordon.
Here.
Okay. And our first agenda item is an update regarding short-term rental registration and position.
Not much has changed. We have started getting registrations. We have, I think, 40 or 50 of them so far, and we started going through them. We are at this moment just working out a few technical glitches on the actual printing of the permit, so I'm holding off on actually approving those. Hopefully by the end of this week that will be working, but we are taking credit cards. So it's going fairly well. It's kind of a soft launch. And it seems to be working out. We are, I heard from Human Resources that we do have a few, some people who have applied, and she's supposed to be sending those over to me to look through so we can do some interviewing for the inspector position, which I'd like to get going as soon as possible. I think I've been saying that for the past month or two. So that's where we are right now. So far, so good. So. The actual registration is pretty simple, so people seem to be doing fine with it. And if they have a problem, they call and make a few suggestions, and then they figure it out eventually. So
You don't know how many applications we do have, do you?
oh, for the
Position?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you'll interview maybe 3?
Usually we'll interview 3 or 4, depending on how many qualified people we get. But yeah.
Is that going to be full-time?
It's a full-time position, yes, with benefits.
The year and everything?
Yep. It's a good position, and hopefully we'll get some good qualified people.
Good.
So that's the status for that.
It'd be a nice challenge for somebody coming in to take on rolling out a brand-new program and learn the ins and the outs, and a real challenge, so.
Yeah. Yeah, in the job description, I kind of stressed that they would be helping to develop the program as it moves forward. So I think that's interesting.
Good.
Good.
Okay.
All right. And our next agenda item is a review and discussion of the nitrogen loading regulation.
Did you want me to?
And do you want to?
So I guess I can, Noble couldn't be here, but he had a few comments. I think I forwarded them to you, maybe just to reiterate where we're at. based on our last meeting and the meeting with the select board. our attorney, Mr. Costello, believes that, that this is, that the regulation is in effect and it would, well, basically, the public hearing was legal. I do not believe that this particular deviation from the statutorily prescribed notice requirement for this rulemaking hearing has been unduly prejudicial or materially detrimental to the public interest such that a court would invalidate the amendments. But he did say, and I think we all agreed, that for the community goodwill, we would take a look at the regulations as we have adopted them and proceed with another public hearing with any changes that we agreed upon. Basically, we want to do this in a timely manner. We have to go through the process of posting it, 14 days for the first
Okay.
posting. So I think at this point, we have the holidays coming up, so we want to post it, when people will more likely to see it. So I'm thinking late January, early February. We
Okay.
can possibly make some, get the next hearing after we've decided on some changes. That's basically, what we agreed upon, we were thinking about. Since our last meeting, I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. Well, I did make some changes suggested based on some of the input we've had from the public. But I did want to try and explain to the board and to the public about the different types of nitrogen-sensitive areas in Chatham. Basically, there's three distinctions that I want to make so that people understand. There's a Title V, which is the state code for subsurface sewage disposal system, has a nitrogen-sensitive area, and that essentially is a Zone 2 of a public water supply. So any areas where there's on-site septic systems that are in this have to comply with a Zone 2 requirement for nitrogen. So that would be more restrictive than our regulations, than our nitrogen loading regulation. And so anybody would have to apply they would be restricted to that nitrogen loading area, a nitrogen-sensitive area. So I'm trying to say this clearly. Basically, that's the 440 per 1 acre of land. You would not get an exemption if you had a 16,000 square foot lot in a nitrogen-sensitive area by Title V. You would not be able to add a third bedroom even with an IA system. That's the areas that are in a Zone 2 of a public water supply, essentially, unless they have a well. If there were a well on their lot, that would also be considered a nitrogen-sensitive area. The second area is that with the new Title V changes, it's called the natural resource nitrogen-sensitive area. Those are areas that are in critical embayments right now, which is most of Chatham, basically. We have a Pleasant Bay watershed that has been already been defined by the town and is not going to be affected by changes, and the requirement on the new Title V changes would be that all properties would have to put an IA septic system in unless they create a watershed permit. So we have the Pleasant Bay watershed permit. We have a deadline to put a notice of intent, which is at the end of this month. I think they just extended it to June to create another watershed permit. We're going to be creating a southern embayments watershed permit, so that would essentially take the rest of Chatham. It would be based on our comprehensive wastewater management plan, so we would not be requiring that those areas put in IAs for all new construction and all systems, which is what the state is asking for, because they would be subject to our wastewater management plan, areas being sewered, basically. So that's the natural resource nitrogen-sensitive area. The third is our area of nitrogen concern, which is basically from our local Board of Health nitrogen loading regulation. Those are portions of mainland Chatham with the groundwater. This is basically the definition from our regulation. Those portions of the mainland area of Chatham where groundwater, the aquifer, and adjacent estuarine environments can be significantly altered by the addition must comply with the Board of Health nitrogen loading regulations. In 2004, we designated the entire town as a area of nitrogen concern. So those are, the area of nitrogen concern and our nitrogen loading regs are basically what we're dealing with the changes in our nitrogen loading regulation, which says that you have to meet the 1 bedroom per 10,000 square feet in any property in town that wants to add flow, or as long as they're not in a not in a nitrogen sensitive area of Title V. Are you guys getting that? Do you
It's
understand?
clear as mud.
Yeah, it's a little confusing,
It is.
but basically it's every area in town has to go by our nitrogen loading regulations. If they're in a nitrogen sensitive area by the state, they're even more restrictive. So they wouldn't get the benefit of the extra bedroom that we would allow,
Okay.
unless they can meet the IA requirement. So that's basically what those rules are. I wanted to try and clarify that. Maybe you folks can read it, and if you have more questions, I can try and answer them separately. Or, at another time or another meeting. Did I give you any maps? I wanted to show you some maps.
No.
Okay. Next time I'll bring you some maps so I can show you the different areas of town that we're discussing, so it makes more sense to you. So in the regulations, the nitrogen loading regulations, I made a few changes based on our discussions. The first was in the authority section, findings and purposes, actually. I added some language that says the the paragraph starts with, there is an increasing pressure in Chatham to expand houses in order to accommodate year-round use and increase seasonal occupancy. This expanded and intensified use increases the discharge of wastewater effluent, increases the threats to the public health and environmental safety from contaminants found in the effluent. I have added, additionally, the intensified use of seasonal properties has put a strain on drinking water resources and quality of life in Chatham. And then 2 paragraphs down from there, in order to alleviate the further contamination of ground and surface water resources, to address threats to the public health that result from wastewater discharge, I added, and to minimize the strain on the town's drinking water resources and quality of life, the Board of Health, this is what was already there, the Board of Health of the town of Chatham has determined that immediate measures must be taken. This regulation represents the minimum steps necessary to protect the public health from the adverse effects of discharge of nitrates and other contaminants from individuals on-site sewage disposal systems into the town's groundwater. So I basically just kind of added to our purpose to try and fill out what the board is thinking and reason for making the changes that we've made. I made a few just edits, just on one of the definitions. Instead of a bedroom, I put bedrooms.
Sunrooms.
Under applicability, under 4.1 F, alterations, additions, and I added, or construction of existing dwellings where a new bedroom additional flow is added under applicability. I just kind of clarified that language there. There's really no change, except that making it more clear. So the change that would be of interest and of concern to the public, apparently, under the variance section in section 6, on 6.3, and this is something that I might need to put more thought into, but for residential application, the board may allow by variance 1 additional bedroom over the number allowed by section 5.1 or 5.2 with the use of IA. It used to just say IA alternative on-site subsurface sewage, but I added the language that is now in Title V, which says best available nitrogen-reducing technology in accordance with Title V. They are coming out with best available technologies recommending for use in the natural resource nitrogen-sensitive areas. But I think it would be good for the board to look at those and perhaps require those when we do allow an extra bedroom. And then it goes on to say, and this is where I made the changes, now it says nitrogen-sensitive area is defined in 310 CMR. Whoops, sorry. Is not in, let me start. Best available technology, on-site surface sewage disposal system in accordance with Title V, providing that said lot is not in a nitrogen-sensitive area as defined by Title V. That's that nitrogen-sensitive area I was discussing before in a Zone 2 of a public water supply. That would be more restrictive. I go on to say existing properties that already exceed the requirements of section 5.1 and 5.2 will not be allowed an extra bedroom. That was the change we put in. And then I added for discussion today, notwithstanding the 2-bedroom properties on lots greater than 10,000 square feet would be allowed a third bedroom with the best available nitrogen reducing technology if the lot is in an NSA, then said lot shall comply with the requirements of Title V. That's a little clumsy there. I may have to work around that. But basically, it's saying notwithstanding that 2-bedroom properties on lots greater than 10,000 square feet would be allowed a third bedroom with best available nitrogen-reducing technology, as long as it's not in a Zone 2 of a public water supply. That's the bulk of what I'm putting out there to help address the concerns of the public. I think the other thing we can think about is, I did add, under the variance section, the word conditions. Where is that? Did I skip over it?
What page?
I'll have to go back and look where I put that, but any variances would be allowed with any terms or conditions that the Board of Health would put on that property. I don't know where I put that on. But do you guys have any thoughts on this proposed change? I don't know where I put the conditions.
I think that when we were discussing this at the last meeting, we talked about if the third bedroom is added, that they would not be allowed to rent it as a summer rental or something like this, or we wanted to put in some language.
I didn't know whether you wanted me to codify that or just have that be a condition that would maybe be something that you would add when we approve the variance.
As a condition?
As a condition that the property be deed restricted for year-round, not as a short-term rental, or however, we'd have to get some.
Did you speak with the attorney on that?
We did speak to him originally when we were talking about these issues, and he said he didn't see that would be a problem, that we could condition something like that.
Okay, I think that's appropriate to put under conditions. I think that would be good.
That would be a good.
Any other comments or?
No? When will this go in front of
Not for a while.
Well, I think, we want the full board here to discuss it again. So we would want Dick and Noble here. Our next meeting is on the 18th, so we could discuss it again. And maybe in the meantime, you guys can let me know what your questions are, or I can clarify any of these confusing, different definitions and such. So then, at that point, we could decide whether we wanted to move forward with a public hearing, or if we want to change anything else.
Right.
And then we would have, again, as I said, publish the public hearing towards the end of December, I guess. We have to publish it twice, so,
I would think you couldn't publish, you should wait till January, mid-January,
to publish?
to publish. You don't want to publish near a holiday.
Yeah,
No,
Well, we
sometime in
So it would
January.
have to
We
be
can
like
talk
a
ab-
week
yeah.
after a holiday. So you're
Yes.
talking like the second week of January.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need 2 weeks, the 14 days.
right,
So you're talking, the first, hearing would be the end of January, beginning of February.
That sounds good. Gives everybody time to read it and have any questions that they want to talk about.
Yep.
yeah.
Did the attorney say the last one that was advertised was legal?
Yes,
It was.
it is legal.
He felt that it would stand up in court, is basically what he said, because there was no intent to, prejudicial intent to, against anyone.
So the regulation right now is in effect
Right.
until we make changes, which wouldn't happen until the hearing,
Yeah.
after the hearing.
Okay.
Do we have a lot of two-bedroom homes in Chatham?
I don't know the number, I mean, there probably are quite a few. I couldn't tell you what the number, I'd have to go through, see if the assessor could give me that number.
Right,
I
that's-
can ask.
I would see if you can get an estimate of that.
I mean, that won't be totally accurate, because they might call something two bedrooms that we would consider three, but,
Right.
but it, we could see how many homes are assessed as two bedrooms.
Yeah, I would just like to hear more debate and more discussion about the rationale of identifying a two-bedroom and handling that different from a three-bedroom, four-bedroom, or five-bedroom. I know we're kind of looking at that as a possibility, but I'd like to hear more pro and con debate about that.
Well, perhaps,
I think.
And I'm sure we will, when we have the next meeting with the full part.
and the public hearing.
Absolutely.
Or if anyone here
Right.
tonight has anything
I'd just
to
like to
say.
hear
Right.
more about that.
Okay.
Because I don't really know quite what to think,
Yeah.
you know.
Should we take any public comment?
Yeah, we have, is there
We have
anybody,
someone online.
anybody in the audience, or?
And who is this? Mr.
Attorney Litchfield.
John Lynch.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief. Bill Litchfield, I think, speaking on behalf of my clients, the Teppers, we appreciate the responsiveness of the board toward the issue which they got caught up in. In answer to Mr. Beckley's comment about separating out two bedrooms, we already do, because the existing regulation has a special provision saying that you can get a two-bedroom house anyway. So I don't think that's unfair. And I think there is a difference realistically, there's a difference between a six-bedroom house and a two or a three-bedroom house. It just factually and otherwise. The added language that you're proposing in the purposes section, I think is sensible. And the fact that this is I think is a good step toward keeping it a nitrogen loading regulation, which is appropriate. And I was encouraged to have Judy confirm that Mr. Costello thinks that it's perfectly appropriate to accept a condition. I would suggest that that could be a condition, that it not be a short-term regulation, or short-term rental, could be part of the conditions in the approval of a third bedroom rather than part of your regulation. It could be an understanding that it would be a best available technology IA system. The only other comment I would make is that if you're going to revisit this on the 18th, that it would be, we know full well that this is a duly posted meeting and the notice went out as appropriate on Thursday. might be useful if the Chronicle had the opportunity, not as a legal ad, but just as a news story, because they've been covering this issue. So if, I suspect they are watching, and if there's a story that there's gonna be a further discussion on the 18th, that would be helpful. But again, I want to thank the board for its willingness to revisit this matter. The Teppers are looking forward to ultimately getting that third bedroom. Mr. Tepper indicated that his in-laws are wonderful people, but he doesn't want that close by. So we thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
There's one online,
One online?
CEB? CEB, I don't know if that's Elaine.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes,
I just have an unrelated, and I didn't know when the public, can speak about an unrelated.
can you identify yourself?
Yes, I'm Carol Bliss, and I had sent a request for discussion about the
Oh,
airport.
Yep, we're
I
actually
didn't
gonna
see-
get to that when we go over our correspondence.
Okay, I didn't see it in the agenda, and I just didn't want the meeting to end before I had a chance to speak. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay.
you're welcome.
Any other comments regarding nitrogen loading regulation? No. Okay. All right. All right, so, should we discuss the,
Her letter, do you wanna go to correspondence?
all right.
Or you do the minutes, either one. So in your correspondence, there is a letter from, actually, the woman who just spoke up, requesting that the board put on their agenda, an item to discuss, basically air quality and lead at the airport and surrounding airport. I don't have a lot of information on that. It would be something that I would have to put on the agenda at a future time so that I could do some research. I'm not sure if it'd be appropriate to have someone from the Airport Commission as well attend and maybe give us any information that they have about air quality in the area. So it's,
I think it's definitely worth putting on the agenda, and it is something that we concern the Board of Health with when it comes to the lead pollution and everything. As far as finding out, really, does it affect us? You know, the Airport Commission probably will have something to say, but it'd be nice if we would have someone else who is knowledgeable about this to come in and talk as well. I don't know if we can get someone from the Washington Post who did the article, or some sort of a fact-finding person who can also talk when the Airport Commission comes in and
Or
speak to
someone
this.
from the EPA or
Right,
state
yeah.
level.
I can see who I can find. Yep.
I know. But it'd be nice to have both sides, because we're going to hear from the Airport Commission. We need to hear from somebody who's knowledgeable, who knows all about this, and then put it,
Well, what I'll do is I'll do some research and then we can set a date after I can find out what I can find out.
So it will be on a future agenda.
It will be on a future
Right,
agenda.
good.
To be determined, so.
okay, yeah, I think that's.
I mean, hopefully sooner rather than later, so we won't push
Correct.
it
Right,
off too
because
much.
Right now, yeah. Okay, that would be great.
Ms. Bliss, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Me?
Carol Bliss?
Only to say thank you very much for considering it, and to refer you to the Washington Post article that clearly states what some of the issues are. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. So the minutes of the November 20th, 2023 meeting, are there any changes to the minutes, or?
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes of November 20th as submitted.
And a second?
Second.
Second. And do we approve?
You have to go, do a roll call.
Aye.
Or, yeah.
Say aye.
Aye, yep.
Is that it? So I need a motion to adjourn,
So move.
second? And
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Anybody opposed?
We have adjourned.